Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Go. And we are very excited today. We have a guest, Christine, with us. So it is going to be a fun chat. And as always, we're just going to kind of let it roll as it rolls. But to get us started, I want to bring up the topic of written words. We were talking a little bit prior to hitting record. And Christine writes, I'm going to let her talk about that a little more, but how Renaé and I have conversations and don't even pick up on our topics till we're like, oh my gosh, we've said that 5 times already. Didn't even realize what we were saying. Um, and we both kind of just realized that this written word thing, reading, has come back into the forefront for both of us, which is kind of interesting in this very rapid age of technology and everyone's audible books. And it's so easy to listen, but I have been drawn to reading. And even my younger daughter, she has been writing a lot and fascinated reading her words and how they hit me. So hit me meaning like I'll read a very simple sentence and it becomes very profound to me and for me, but it's a very simple sentence that 100 other people would interpret different ways, which I don't think that really happens when you're listening to people as much per se. So I'm going to roll it off there. Whether Christine, you want to jump in and tell us what you're doing on the scene of writing.
Sure. Thanks, Tracy. Thank you, Renee, for having me. I just started probably earlier this year in writing. Now, I've always journaled. It's just something that I've done on and off most of my adult life. And I would call some of it automatic writing, probably. But what I resonated with is other people who also have either messages on YouTube or something. And I found that I could understand them better through their writing. And I would receive their daily writing of a channeled message or of a message. And I resonated with that so much more. And I thought, heck, maybe I should just start doing this myself. So I started doing Substack and I started just allowing the flow of what was meant to come out. And I would say that probably I get a hit from it. So I don't do it like every single day or even every single week. It's whatever moves me on whatever topic it is that comes out, but it's always heart centered. And I have really focused on kind of the movement of forward, the now moment and the future. And I look at that as, we all have the guide system in our cars and navigation. It never asks where we've been, it always asks where we're going. And so that is something that I really resonate with. And it's my heart center and wanting to move forward. And you know, who cares what got me here? It's I know that I resonate with love and light, and that is my movement forward. And I want to bring that out. And part of how I bring it out is not only holding space for different people at different times and different situations, but also in my writing. So I do have a Substack account. You can look me up. It's my first and last name, and I'm there. It's free if you're interested, but it's really my journal.
I love that. That's awesome. And I think people will definitely do that. Now, you did mention the automatic writing. You said you thought some of that was automatic writing, and I'm pretty sure our listeners know what that is, but can you expand on that a little on what the automatic writing is? Because I know that there's a big movement right now from what they're saying of people awakening and starting to write things down and not recognizing, not being aware that, oh, wait a minute, this is automatic writing. They're just, thinking it's them. So could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So I didn't really understand it myself until probably a few years ago. But when I write, it takes on like almost a energy of its own. So it's an energetic flow that I just keep writing and keep writing and keep writing. And it's like I lose my mind and I'm more in my heart and it just keeps flowing. And I'll go back and sometimes what I wrote was very profound. And I'm like, I don't think I'd use that word or I wouldn't say it that way. But so now I've come to understand that it's kind of a combination. I think we're all channelers to some degree. We just don't realize that we are. And that can come out in automatic writing very clearly. Now you can be more conscious of it. And I have done that where I've asked for different situations that occur that I will ask for guidance in a situation. And I might tap into the collective of organization or another person's higher self, and I'll ask permission and I'll start writing about it. And usually what comes out is nothing except profound love and light. It's just amazing when you just get out of the way and it's really, allowing your ego to take a side. I use the football analogy. You can be benched on the sideline and my heart's going to run, you know, for the touchdown.
I love that. I love that analogy. Tracy's really good with analogies and stories and things that people really resonate with. We get it, we understand it from that perspective, which I always think is awesome. When you were doing the automatic writing, and I'm sure you're still doing that. Okay, what I think was important, and it goes back to the whole reading of the word and all that. I think it's something to pay attention to is when you said, when I would go back and read it. It was important because I think so many times we'll write things out and not really go back and read the things, because I think that's when we're finding the profoundness in it and the recognition that, oh, wait a minute, I wouldn't use that word. I wouldn't do that. So it's really recognizing, and I agree with you that we are all channelers. We just have to be aware and recognize that aspect. Tracy, you got something?
Well, I think this goes into a bigger topic of we're all becoming more aware. And if we can get our head out of the way and let our pure intelligence flow, and how we are so infinitely intelligent, but we maybe doubt ourselves. And I've written, and I think it's so great to know, especially when words come up that I don't understand. I don't know the definition. I'm like, what? And you're the one that's obviously, producing the word. I love that because you know that it's an intelligence beyond your brain that's coming through. And you're not, listening to someone else and interpreting their thoughts or their beliefs like it's yours. And then what I find so fascinating, which is happening in all, areas of life, is you reread a word and I understand it differently. And it's more profound when it's my word or, my writing. And I think that's happening for everyone. I'm using me because we all can write and I find it such a cool, expansive process to you be the one, it's your intelligence, and of course, read other people's, because that always gets me thinking. And that's why I kind of even said my daughter, she's 20. One could say, what the hell does she know? She's 20. And sometimes she writes stuff, and I'm like, how does she know that? Like, how does she come up with that perspective? So everyone has a think point that you can read that opens you up a little more. And then it all extrapolates, and then read it the next day and you'll see it different. And then read it the next hour. And oh my gosh, I did not even see that last hour. I just think it's so fun and fascinating and curious. And you can probably tell that's my topic. Let's make it fun and fascinating and curious. So I just love that everything is like morphing as it should be. The energies are moving so fast. Everything is changing so fast. Even your own or someone else's thought, expression, concept, opinion, like, oh my goodness, look, that presented itself totally different. Just think it's so fascinating. So yeah, do it. Read or write and read other people's stuff and write your own and repeat, repeat, repeat.
I love that. Like, yeah. And Christine, I'm sure that, do you ever go back and read some of your stuff that maybe from 6 months ago or, from a month ago or even older and see something completely different or hear something completely different in that?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because for years I had journal books and I threw a bunch of them away. And now I look back and I like, why did I do that? Because I have gone back now more recently. I never did. I just write and I would like throw it in a journal when I was done with the journal book. I never went back to it. And now I do, and I'm like, well, that's an interesting perspective. And I'm like, I don't resonate with that anymore. Or wow, that's really profound, and you should have wrote more about that, that kind of thing. So I have done it. And it's pretty interesting to think that, for a while it was like, oh my God, I did this, and then I'm like, well, no, me and my, higher self did this, or me and, realizing that it's so much bigger than what we are. And so that's kind of cool to embrace that whole, you know, I'm powerful, so are you. You're powerful, and so are they. That whole empowerment of going beyond ourself, but that we're all created equally, yet we're all unique. And I like the analogy of this master puzzle of the creator, God, source, whatever you want to call it, is like we're the fractal. Each of us have a place in there, including the ascended masters, including the archangels, including the aliens and the animals. Every fractal is a fractal of the bigger piece, but we're all unique individually, yet we're all part of the bigger. So it's like, to me, that's so empowering because it makes us, because I used to put myself down, like I was less than, something else or someone else. And now I see, the bigger circle of how we're all related together. This grid of what is so massive, but we're all a tiny speckle of this huge, huge thing. And so that really started, and I'm going to kind of segue into the circle that Renaé, you helped me create.
Okay.
And that was just finding a support system that would support each other in our uniqueness and our abilities and our talents and our growing towards, the bigger, and empowering each other, empowering ourselves through that support system. And so I created this intuitive soul circle. And it's a circle of people who no one is in charge. Yeah, I'm hosting it, but it's really, we're all, and it's small and intimate, but it's there for anybody who wants to join because we are all at a different place, but we're helping each other grow individually and yet collectively.
That's so beautiful. And I think right now it's so important. So I'll put the link in the description and also in the comments, I'll pin it. So if anybody wants to email her and join the group, because I think it's so important now. Well, and it's always been, I think there's so many people that I run into that say, I really have nobody else to talk to. Like I don't have anybody else to run things by. I think I'm going crazy, or, they don't feel like they're growing. So two things there. Like when you said you looked back at your journals, and I know some people, like I've never really been a writer. I don't really like to write things down or journal things out, whatever. But I do see the value in it. And I do see the point where if people started to just journal things, just little things, like, when you said you would look back and you would say, oh, you should have written more on that. But at that particular moment, you didn't need to write more on it. That's, the point where you were. So if people just start to journal just something about their day, just a little something, and go back and look at it, whatever, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, whatever, you'll see the growth, because people are stuck in that point of thinking, well, I'm not growing, I'm not expanding. And if they just wrote things down and read it, first of all, it's your own handwriting. Okay, so there's something to be said in that energetic field of you writing that down. And if you've got something that you're holding on to in that moment, and as you're writing, you're giving it that release. It's a time to release that. And I don't know that people recognize that, but most importantly, when you go back and you read that, one of two things is happening. You're recognizing, oh my goodness, like I've really grown, and that's not how I think anymore. But because you're reading, you're also helping yourself wake up. And sort of goes back to what we said in the beginning, when you're reading somebody else's words, even your own. When you're reading them, exactly what you said before we started recording, Christine, you're reading it at your own pace. You might, go back and reread it, because I'm notorious for listening to something and saying, wait, what? And if I can't rewind it, I've already shut my brain off. I'm not hearing anything else they're saying, because I'm still trying to concentrate on what did they say there. But if I'm reading it, I can go back and go, wait a minute, what, this is hitting me. I didn't really comprehend it. This is hitting me on a different level. So it's, reading in your own thing and opening up something within you, because that will always happen with your writing, with reading yours, somebody else's words. You're opening something else different in you. And the fact that you have a group that you can come with anything, because, I know you don't have to say it, you're always coming from the heart. You're always in this like soul-centered space of there's no judgment, there's nothing. And the group clearly is that same way. And having somebody or in a group of people to talk about something that you might think is irrelevant, or that is, well, I'm not really changing, and everybody else chime in to say, oh no, can't you see this? Because we can all look at someone or something and say, yes, you have to look at this, look at it, that things that we don't necessarily recognize about ourselves. So I love that aspect and that whole component of joining the group. And they don't have to show up every time, right? Like, do you meet? How often do you meet?
We meet on Sunday afternoons, except the first Sunday of the month.
Okay, so every Sunday, except for the first Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Oh, good. God, I'm glad it's not the first Sunday.
We did initially, but we were always cutting ourselves short to join your group. So
That's good. And like, how awesome is that? Because on a weekly basis, we change so much, and so many, especially now, because Tracy and I were talking about it before we hit record as well, how quickly the energy is changing. And Trace, you want to say something about that? You got anything there, or anything else on this?
No, I just think the energies are changing quickly, and I always share stories. I won't go into them all, but I love to share with Renaé how in my own world and life, their stuff is changing really quickly. And if you catch it, it's just kind of a nice affirmation of the things that possibly aren't changing quickly enough for you, to embrace that energy. Well, yeah, jump on the wagon and let things change, right? Don't hold on to the old if you want the new. I don't know. I just think it's such an exciting time. And I love the fact that writing has come kind of full circle. And I am really onto and embracing this thing of like simplicity, and the clarity within the simplicity. We've accumulated all this stuff, whether it's material or thoughts or beliefs, and to really like just clear house. And I just think it's cool to come back to a basic of reading and writing. I find it all interesting and profound, even as everything, also simultaneously, well, telepathy is so coming on board that do we need to read or write? Because we could just, communicate that way, which is so like so many topics of juxtapositions. It's one of my new favorite words. Look at all the fascinating juxtapositions happening, which I love that because it's the infiniteness, right? Like, yeah, that, and both, and all of it, and none of it.
You're right. There is so much there. Go ahead, Christine. What were you going to say?
no, I was just going to add that, and it doesn't matter how much or how little. Sometimes there's more profound statements in just as little words as possible. So it's not necessarily how much you write, just write. Just let it out and put it on paper, pen to paper. And if it's a paragraph, a sentence, or 2 pages, who cares?
I love that. Go ahead, Tracy. Did you want to say something?
I was going to say, and I love that Christine puts it out there. Like it's on Substack. It is available for anybody and everybody who is drawn to it, which I find super cool. Like the magnetics in play. People are going to find you that you don't know that just stumbled upon it. And they're like, wow, this is exactly what I needed to hear right now. So I love that you did that extra step of, okay, it's out there.
Okay, world, read it if you can. And Christine, before we hit record, you were saying something about like you're just showing up in the day, in the moment. And I think that's important for right now in today's energy in this field, where so many people are looking backwards. And I just love the way you had said that whole point. Like I'm, not there. Do you remember that? And can you reiterate that?
Yeah, this is something that's really new. So I think it's the new energies and my shift and change is that I no longer need to tell the story of where I've been. It's really about a forward movement. It's about being in the present moment and looking forward with, excitement and curiosity and love and light and not going backwards. And I say that because I really struggled. I'm in a 55 and up community. So I'm in this community, and there's a lot of people who are retired, some not, but a lot that are. And we get together socially. And I have struggled. So I've sort of backed off for a period of time. And then I kind of like dip my toe in, and then I step back and I dip my toe in. And recently I've come to say that all I need to do is show up and be in my heart center. And if they want to have a conversation, I don't need to contribute and I can just send love and light. And that's what I've been really focused on doing because I'm really trying to move forward. And I believe that energy is a ripple effect and what I've noticed is that if it's a smaller group, because sometimes there's all these women, we play cards and, we just sit around, but there's usually groups of 4. And if they start a conversation and I'm not contributing, they usually shift and change the subject. It's so amazing to watch it unfold. And I'm like, okay, there's something to this. And even my husband and I were out with a couple and this woman, she started bringing something up. My husband sort of contributed, her husband contributed. I said nothing. And before I know it, the whole conversation shifted.
That's awesome. I love that kind of stuff. But see, it is like I hope people like recognize how powerful that energy is. And it's so easy to buy into, to match that energy, to go into that, like talking about whatever the past and this and that. And it's like if you don't feel that you want to have that conversation, don't. And look at how easy Christine just, does that. Look how easy it shifts. And Tracy, you're notorious for doing that stuff as well. Like holding that space and doing.
We're talking about that a little too. Like, and the more you do it, the less you're even triggered by material that comes up that you might want to put your say in. You're just kind of like, no, I'm not interested. I'm just gonna sit here and be. And then you're right, Christine. Like it's amazing how quickly there's a shift and all of a sudden that just goes away. Like it's just not a talking point. And it is getting so much more just cool how everything's playing out. Yeah. And I love what you said, Christine, about just show up and, I just call it presence, just hold pure presence and try not to let myself wobble, right? Get drawn in.
Mhm.
And it starts to be, gosh, so much more enjoyable to go through the day.
And it's not that I can't get triggered because, we still live in a 3D world and I still get behind the wheel and somebody cuts me off and I get upset. It happens, but then I recognize it quicker and I see it in myself and I'm like, that's not who I want to be. And so I can shift myself. It's all preference and it's all a choice. Really, in a world of so much contrast, you can choose which way you want to go.
I love that. And you're so right. That's what we always say, right, Tracy? It's all the choice. What are you choosing? And I think it's really important, again, to reiterate exactly what Christine said. Like, it gets easier not to buy into it, not to get triggered. The more you're and how easy and quicker you're catching yourself.
Right.
Because that's what I've noticed as well. Like, through this whole journey, that the minute you consciously, I will say, but I know sometimes it's unconscious, that oh, I'm not going to get pulled into this anymore. I don't want this in my life. Because the more we're moving forward, the more we're showing up, like Christine, you're showing up in that moment, like when you're getting together with the ladies and all this stuff, right? You're showing up from this beautiful heart-centered space. What you've done is you made a conscious or unconscious choice to, I'm not going to get pulled into things that I don't want to get pulled into. And I'm saying unconscious because I think when we just say, all right, I'm choosing to show up, and I'm not gonna go where I'm not comfortable, it really, what they keep showing is this unconscious decision that the heart, then you go behind the heart and you're coming from this deeper sense of being, the deeper sense of, you know what, I'm just being me and this is okay. Like, you've given yourself the approval to just be you and not have a conversation, not do whatever, if that's not what I want to do. And that choice, conscious and unconscious, they're saying the two are mirrored together, is going to move you forward. And the more you're moving forward, the more you're not buying. You can't. It's an energy that's gone. It's what we've talked about before, where you're moving forward into here and you're like, oh well, wait, I wanted to do that, and it's already gone. You've already gone. You can start to recreate it or do things like that, but it's gone. Choosing to show up just as you are and know that you're more than enough, because I'm sure that's part of the aspect of when we show up to places, we're saying, well, I don't want to show up because you're feeling not enough. So you said, right? So I don't want to do this. I don't want it. But if you push yourself and say, no, I'm just going to show up and I'm just going to pour out this energy and I'm coming in from the heart, it really does make such a huge difference in the experience you have, the experience everybody else has, and the experience of the world, because that energy then, exactly what you said, Christine, ripples out into the world and beyond.
Yes. And I can also say, just even in my relationship with my husband, we have shifted so greatly together as a couple. And he, just like even the other day, he was just snippy, in the morning. And then he finally just acknowledged, he goes, I'm just in a crabby mood. And I looked at him and I said, I know, but I love you. And it was like, but it shifted him. He acknowledged what he was doing. It shifted him and we moved on and it stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so cool, crazy cool, this stuff. And I mean, I can be in a bad mood. And, I acknowledged last week I was saying it to somebody. I woke up, I knew I was like in this kilter. Now I didn't speak to anybody. My husband was still sleeping and I'm up and I'm like, okay, I have a choice here. And I chose to go into a meditation and get heart centered and shift it. And I came out in this blissful feeling because I acknowledged it and I saw it and I decided to do something about it. Now that's becoming easier for me today than it was even 3 months ago.
I want to ask you about the meditation. When you said, okay, I chose to go into meditation, was it that you, whatever, sat quietly? Did you listen to a meditation? What did you do? Because there's so many different venues, and I want people to understand there's different ways to do a meditation.
Yeah, I tend to choose not to do my daily meditations with a guided meditation. I sometimes will listen to high frequency music and sometimes I don't. It's just silent. But I always go into my heart. I tend to ground myself by, you know, sending love and light to Mother Gaia. And, I just get into that centered with Mother Gaia. I always say that I'm divinely protected. And then I just go into my heart. And usually, how I really expand is I think of my children when they were little, when they were born, and then they've grown into this, these adults and the grandkids. And so I kind of go through this little ritual, probably lasts about 5 minutes. And then I just focus on the expansion of my heart and humanity and the world and the multiplex and beyond. And I will get to a place, sometimes it goes pretty high, sometimes it doesn't. I don't like set an expectation. I just allow it to take me where it goes. I can be in it 20 minutes. I can be in it 40 minutes. I've gone as long as an hour and a half. But yeah, I just allow it to do what it needs to do, and then I come out of it. And my heart is so expansive that I just know that the ripple of the love that is there is just sending out to um, all of the universe.
Oh my God, I love that. And I love that it wasn't a guided meditation. It was just you. And when you first started doing that, because I think people tend to, be like, well, I can't do that. I can't sit quietly. I can't do that, whatever. And, I say to people, it's when you first do that, it's not like a lot of times it does. It takes a while to do that. So when you first started, were you able to do like what, like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, a minute?
I started probably 30 years ago. And there was a huge break in between there, and I really started picking it up in the last 4 or 5 years. But I was taught through yoga. So I was in hatha yoga class, and the yoga instructor really got us into a meditative state. And it was through a certain type of breathing, the rhythm of breathing. So you're out of your head and you're focused on your breathing. And there's different types of breath work that you can find on YouTube, which for people who are really trying to struggle with that monkey mind and try to get out of that, that is a great way is to get into breath work and just start there. For me, I don't need that anymore because I can quiet my mind, but that's over practice over a period of time. And in the beginning, it was hard. And sometimes it was only 5, 10 minutes. And that was okay, but it continued practice. It continued to grow. And because of the blissful state you get to in it, it's almost like you want it to grow.
That's what I find. I crave silence now. Like I crave to be alone and silent and just like nothing, which is when everything starts to come in, right? Like if you can just zone out and not be it, I think it's just so cool that it flips. All of a sudden, I'm always looking for little pockets like, oh, I'm just going to go sit outside for 10 minutes and just have nothing. I love it.
I think that's so important because, and even if you couldn't like it, it's impressive that when you had first started, you're able to do 5 minutes. Because I remember when I first started, I probably was at 30 seconds if I was that long, which felt like about a year because I had that monkey mind always going. So I think it's important for people to realize keep at it, because you will finally get there. And then you'll get to a point where all of a sudden you're sitting there and you open your eyes, like, wow, that was 5 minutes. Oh my goodness. So it's practice, practice, practice. And recognizing, for me, it was the recognition of, because I was like, oh my God, I just can't meditate. There's no way, or I can't just go into a quiet space. And then like something just, came in at that point because I didn't recognize I was channeling back then. And something, said, I was washing dishes and it was just quiet. Like I just went somewhere, and all of a sudden I heard, you see what you just did? You see what you just did? And look at all that you've washed. And I looked over and I was like, oh yeah, I know I washed all those. But it was such a quiet time. And they said you were in a meditative state. When we drive and we're like, how did I get here? Like, but just sort of scary. But it's like we were in that meditative state. So recognizing that we
Yeah.
can get into that quiet space. Do not go into the I can't, because if the more you say that, the more you're going to be stuck in the I can't, and your system's going to honor that and say, okay, you're right, we can't. So I'm going to keep throwing these things at you. But start to recognize all the quiet times that you have, and that drive when you're like, wait, I didn't even hear that song or whatever it was, or I don't know how I got here. Recognizing that we are in these beautiful quiet spaces. And the more you recognize and are aware, because the awareness is huge, or you're aware, the more you will do. And I think that's, important. And we were talking about awareness before we came on. I think it's really important to people to recognize the awareness state that we're in at this time of the world, and how not only are we becoming more aware of things that are happening, but and this could be like a crazy, weird conversation I'm trying to bring, because you both look sort of like, where is she going with this one? But I wanted to sort of bring up this awareness point of the energy that we're in, how it's coming forward, and how, if you guys have any stories, or if you both have anything to say about this awareness state that we're in, and how it's really waking up, if that's even making any sense at all, or if I'm rambling.
Christine, you got anything you want to go, or?
Why don't you start? Because I'm kind of I'm trying to formulate something.
So what I've been noticing, that the awareness piece is so much more powerful, and it's this point of attention and intention. And Renaé and I have been talking about it for quite a while. But what I see from like an energetic, magnetic standpoint is, if people are willing to have the awareness, it's like you don't even have to think through of like, oh my gosh, why do I do that? How do I stop doing it? It's almost like putting their attention on it with the intention of honesty and, oh, I do that, or I did that, or that just happened. I'm watching stuff it just clears away. It just dissolves out of the field. And you mentioned this earlier, Renaé, and I forgot in what concept you brought it up on, but this I'm seeing so much more prevalent and profound of, we don't have to do all that work. If you just put pure intention, I'm going to say it again, pure intention on something after awareness, it's like the rest just fades away, and you almost can't grab it again of, oh, I did that again. And then it's like, wait, I did what? And why do I do that? So it's kind of hard to put in words, and I just have been more watching it like, wow, this is getting really cool. We don't have to look back. All of a sudden we can identify this awareness piece, and it can be anything, a thought that you had, a situation, we're creating everything. So if you're just aware that, oh, I just created that, oh, I don't like that, so I'm going to choose to not create that again. It's all of a sudden like all the architecture behind it goes away, and it's just starting to, like, I feel like it's going to happen more and more, but I'm seeing it, like you said, with your husband, I forget what we say in off air, but I feel like I always, Renaé and I have all these examples of, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, I saw this and I thought that, and then within minutes, it was like, wait, what just happened? Where did that go? Where did that thought go? And I'm being kind of general about it, but it's really coming online very quickly. And I just, I claim so many victories. I'm like, cool, awesome, thank you. Whether it's my mood changes, or I catch my husband, like you said, the other day he made a comment. He's like, damn, that was a bad choice. And I didn't say a word. In my head, I'm like, yeah, what are you going to do now? But all of a sudden, it's like, ooh, oh, let me make a better one. So it's very cool when you start to be aware of yourself first. I always find self-awareness is really what opens your eyes, right? And then you can start watching other people. And it's like, wow, this is really popping off. I guess the summary is the awareness with the pure intention, and then the choice. It's really starting to get, I'm almost like seeing a ping pong, like we can really just start ping ponging off all this old stuff that we don't want within ourselves and our reality. Okay, I probably really just took that and
No, to me, it's pure magic. It's the magic that starts to happen because when we become more and more aware, and self-awareness, I think, Tracy, is key. Like you say, you start with yourself because then everything just starts to really magnify. You start to see things. I like to do crafty, artsy stuff, and I will put an intention out there that I'm looking for, and I do a lot of like upcycle of from from Goodwill or from whatever, and I'll take it. And I'm looking for a specific piece. And this happened quite a while ago, but it was pretty interesting. I said, I want something that goes above my stove because I have this tile and it's all blank and it has to, and I want to repurpose it. And the next thing I know, like it was like days later, I found this magnificent metal piece that I ended up painting and decoupaging into an art collage and shifted it diagonally, and it's perfectly centered above my stove. And those are the kind of things that I just love to do. I love to aware of the power that I have through my intention and attention, which is so cool. It's kind of like Abraham Hicks, tune in, tap in, turn on, When we do that and we're aware, there's so many things. I find myself saying something or thinking something, and the next thing I know, there's a YouTube about the topic I wanted. And it just automatically feeds to me. It's like the universe is aware of what I'm asking for. I'll watch a show on TV and I can finish the sentence, or I can say, "Oh, this is going to happen," and it happens. It's like when you're aware, it's the magic that just happens. And so when I say I don't want to go backwards, it's because there's so much excitement and curiosity to look forward to all these magical things that are happening.
I love magic too. And you're claiming it like, oh my God, that was so magical. Give me more. Oh, but of course, here's some more.
Yep, it's so cool. And everybody can do it. That's the thing. Everybody can do it.
Yes.
Tracy, before we hit record, you were telling a story about the but of course, because you just said that, but of course. And I was like, yes, if we all started to just like think something and be like, but of course, can you tie that into, a story or whatever that it's, but of course, because I think that, not I think, that's what sort of resonates with people. And exactly what you said, Christine, everybody can do it. And if you had that, but of course moment, like, I think that would be really helpful.
So I was telling Renaé, because we had Renaé's Changemaker yesterday, and during the Send the Love Out to the World, it was just kind of this beauty of it's so beautiful. I wasn't normally I try and look at the energies and figure out what's going on, but I was saying to Renaé, the answer back was yeah, but of course. And I was reminded this was years ago. My husband and I went through this whole Thailand, Indonesia trip with about four other people. And we signed up for an adventure tour while we were in Thailand. And, it included the places that we stayed and everything. So we've been traveling for a bit, but we showed up in Chiang Mai in Thailand at this hostel. And it was very simple and, just not very comfortable. And our friends went down the street, not even a mile. I think you could have walked there in, 10 minutes, was this huge hotel, super nice and ridiculously cheap because we're in Thailand. So we just didn't stay at the hospital. We went on the adventure things. But the point was, I was shown, do you see two very vast realities, literally side by side? And it's a matter of choice. And when we went to this hotel, so we had like a 3 bedroom suite, and the service was so good that you'd ask for anything and they'd go, but of course. So then So much. Can we get a massage in the room? But of course. Can you send up, fruit and cheese? But of course. So much so that the guys all had some woman come to the room, custom measuring suits. They had like shirts made in Thai silk, but it was such a reminder for me yesterday of, well, just ask. Like it's all there. So now it's kind of and that's a real life example of literally not even on the same street. One experience, here's another experience. And some people liked the stay in the hostel and, with no AC in the shower. Trust me, I used to love that when I was younger. The grittier, the better, but so there's no good or bad. Both are awesome. Both are great experiences, but to ask and then revel in the delight of, but of course, oh my gosh, what else can I get? But of course. So it's just, and these are the examples. I have so many cool little knowings drop in all the time of, don't you see? Like, don't you see? Like, and again, I'm just going to reiterate, sometimes I love the gritty. My family and I just went to the Grand Canyon. We lived on the river for 3 days. Talk about raw and gritty, like bathing in a 52-degree dirty Colorado river and sleeping on a cot. Like, that's not, the three sweet palace that but of course. And I love that too. So I think you got to just take it all. And I'm just going to keep revel in the delight. That's one of my new things. Like, oh, just revel in the delight of it all. And can I get more delight? But of course. There you go. There's a couple stories for you.
I love that.
And if we all had that thought of like, well, can't I just do, or can't I just have to put in your brain, like, but of course, remember this story. It's always gonna be like, but of course, because why wouldn't we? We're in this reality. And I love that the way you said that, like the two realities, like right there. Okay, so we're in this reality. And if it's something that we would like to be or have or whatever, and you're thinking, well, just, but I don't. Switch that, like, okay, so I'm in this reality, but of course I could be in this reality and have it. But of course, why wouldn't I ask for that help, that assistance, that whatever, to be it, to have it, to, whatever it is, because asking is really what I have found for me. Asking was the key when I didn't know how to change or how to shift, and I knew I didn't want to be that angry person that I was like, okay, you guys got to help me. Well, back then I worked with Archangel Michael, so it was Archangel Michael, help me stop being this angry, person. And I can't say that I really went into the childhood itself and did a lot of that, because Archangel Michael had told me that, no, you don't have to go back. And this was like in the beginning of me doing this stuff, right? It's like, no, you don't have to go back in, because all the counselors and all that, well, we have to go in and you have to relive that. And I was like, nope, I don't want to relive that. And when I was channeling from Archangel Michael, and he said, no, well, why would you go back? That exactly what you said in the beginning, Christine. Why would you go back? That's not where you're going, moving forward. And in channels, like in the writing, that it's a choice. Like, are you, and I can't remember exactly how he said it, these are my words now, but it was a choice to move forward and allow all of that to just be. It will automatically be healed. It'll be how now they say it is to be transferred into that unconditional love, because you judged it as something there. And if you didn't go through that, for me, if you didn't go through that, Renaé, you wouldn't be doing this today. So, once he said that, I was like, oh, okay, cool. But it was that choice, that whole aspect to, okay, help me. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to go into this. And then for him to say, you don't have to. Make the choice to move forward, and you will move forward. And I was like, yeah, but how? And it was just that whole aspect of, the writing of like, you just do. You move forward. You don't look at that again. Stop thinking you're broken. Stop thinking you have to heal that. Because when you move forward, that automatically heals. You're here. This cannot, play out. And it reminds me of, Tracy, you had sent that linked to something last week or the week before, something like that, remember? And it was science has even proven that one word, I can't remember exactly how it was. Do you remember how that was worded?
Yeah, I love this. It's kind of I think it's even beyond quantum physics. They're finding that particle behavior can affect past, so it's nonlinear timing. And I forgot what experiment they're doing, but that a present behavior of a particle can affect past particles, um, energy behavior, which is it's too much to even wrap your head around. But I wrote about this at one time, and it's crazy. Like once you do something, everything in your past like auto corrects to come in alignment with that now moment energetic repositioning. And I can't really explain it, but I sent it to her and I'm like, oh my God, like they're actually doing experiments, and I have this understanding of it that I can't explain, and it's super cool, but it does. It's this big algorithm, and we see it as linear, and it's not. So when every choice you're making, everything in the past does a little like an auto adjustment, like the algorithm changes. And now science is saying, oh my gosh, we didn't know that this was possible. So the fact that science is catching up, is so exciting.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Right. And doesn't it go into exactly what you were saying, Christine? You didn't say anything to your husband, same thing, with you, and same thing like I just said, same thing with you, Tracy, same thing with me, my husband. We didn't say anything. And they auto-corrected themselves, which then has changed the whole field that we are in, which automatically goes back because again, we're in the movement of now and the movement of moving forward. So you're here. So everything that caused that whatever decision that I'm going to be in a grumpy mood, whatever it is, everything that caused that now got auto-corrected back here. So that pattern, that program, that whatever it is, has now auto-corrected. And because they're aware that they would be aware enough to say something, now all of a sudden we're in a whole new field. Now we're moving forward. And I think, the whole point of that is looking at how that all shifts and changes. So it is stay focused here in the now. Don't think about the past because that will auto correct. And that's not the energy we used to be in. And they're saying we've always been in the energy, but that's not the awareness we were in. Therefore, we didn't know enough to do it. But that's where we are now. So it's really important to focus exactly what Christine's saying. Just show up in the now. Is that no reason to look backwards? That's not where I'm going. I'm moving forward. Anything to say on that, ladies?
Well, a good example of just being in the now and moving forward is the ease and flow that comes with that. And I have a really cool story that my husband and I were on this cruise and we were in Canada and we had stopped in Quebec City and it was one of the ports. It was towards the end and we were down the St. Lawrence Seaway and we kept bumping into this couple that was on the ship. They were from Toronto, and we'd always say hi to them, but it was through the entire 10 days we were seeing them pretty regularly. Well, of course, we're out and walking around Quebec City and we bump into them, we say hi, and we're going to go up to the Fairmont, the big, hotel, go tour it. And then my husband and I decided to stop for lunch. So we're there eating lunch on the sidewalk outside, and here comes, this couple. And we said, hi, hey, come join us. So they come and they join us, and we're sitting next to them. We're having this wonderful conversation. The bill comes, and, we're splitting checks. And I go to hand my Amex card, and they said, we don't take Amex. And I'm looking at my husband. I said, did you bring another card? Because we left it on the ship. And I said, what cash do you have with you? We don't have the cash. And Michelle, this couple, she just looks and she goes, I'll take that. And she goes, I won $1,200 in the casino on the ship. Don't, it's on me. And I was like, oh my God, what is, talk about ease and flow. And then she started joking, well, what would you have done if they didn't? I said, I have no idea. And she goes, you'd be back there washing dishes, you know. But I mean, talk about just being in that present moment, always looking for the good, always having that higher vibration. You know, it was meant to be that they came and we invited them and then they paid for our lunch.
I love that.
I love stories like that. Yep, I always call them and the angelic drop-ins. I'm like, ooh, thank God someone's got
Yep.
my back.
Mhm. Anything else you ladies would like to discuss?
I think this was great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. This was awesome. And with that, we're just going to say, everybody, choose wisely. I couldn't remember that.
Choose wisely and let's go.
Exactly. Any last words you want to say to everybody, Christine? Or
Just follow your light. Get in your heart, follow your light. You're awesome.
oh, I love that. All right, everybody, have an awesome time trading your day and choose wisely and let's go.